Hello Curious. Queen Elizabeth II is already almost 95 years old, but she still holds her office and impresses with her fitness. Therefore, the news that her 99-year-old spouse, so far full of humour and love for driving, ended up in hospital shocked everyone. Buckingham Palace assured that it had nothing to do with the coronavirus, but the concern was that Prince Charles was seen leaving the hospital in tears, and that Prince Harry had submitted himself to voluntary isolation in case he had to fly to the UK with a private jet on standby. And sadly, the worst news came. Today, April 9th, it was revealed that Prince Philip is dead. We have another episode about the protocol in place after his passing, so today we'll give you a closer look at the profile of this aristocrat famous for his love of women and his sharp tongue. What was his life like with Elizabeth? What did he like about Princess Diana? What kind of a father was he? Stay with us to the end and listen. Prince Philip was known for his sharp sense of humour and cutting tongue. However, his jokes were often considered offensive and inappropriate. A famous example was a conversation with a British student in China when he said that if they live here any longer, they will also have slanted eyes. The comment sparked a wave of negative comments in the media that deemed Elizabeth II's husband intolerant. But was he really like that? Prince Philip was born on June 10, 1921, as the only son and last of 5 children of Prince Andrew, son of the King of Greece and Princess Alice Battenberg. He was born in Greece and descended from the Danish family of Schleswig-Holstein-Sonderburg-Glucksburg. When the boy was 18 months old, his family was forced to leave the country. Philip's uncle, King Constantine I, abdicated after his defeat in the war with Turkey, and his father was arrested by the military government and sentenced to exile for life. The entire family, who then lost their Greek citizenship with immediate effect, settled in Paris. In France, Philip's mother, who had been deaf since childhood, gave herself to religion, joining the Orthodox Church. Over time, she began to claim to hear the voice of God and Jesus, formed a physical and psychic relationship with her. She was diagnosed with profound paranoid schizophrenia and was confined to a mental institution, where her treatment was undertaken by Sigmund Freud. According to various reports, the famous doctor's experimental therapy did not work, and Princess Alice was held in an institution against her will. She managed to be freed after about 2 years, but did not return to her family and found her own Orthodox contemplative order, the Christian Congregation of Sisters under the invocation of Saints Martha and Mary. Philip is said to have suffered greatly because of this. At the time, he was placed in the care of his grandmother Princess Victoria at Kensington Palace. His 4 sisters married German aristocrats, and his father moved to a small apartment in Monte Carlo. Philip was reluctant to speak of his parents until the end. It was said that it was because of a complicated childhood he himself had a very difficult relationship with his children, especially Prince Charles, but we'll get to that later. In 1939, as a graduate of private school in Scotland, Philip joined the Royal Navy and graduated from the Royal Naval College, Dartmouth, as a top cadet. A year later, he attained the rank of an aspirant and served 4 months aboard HMS Ramillies, protecting convoys from the Australian Expeditionary Centre in the Indian Ocean. In October 1940, after the Italian invasion of Greece, he was transferred and took part in the Battle of Crete and of Cape Matapan. And at the end of 1941, after a series of training courses, he was promoted to the 2nd lieutenant in the Navy. He continued his military career with success. In July 1942, he became a lieutenant, and in October of the same year, at the age of only 21, he took over as the first officer of the battleship HMS Wallis, as one of the youngest officers in the Royal Navy. He took part in the Battle of Sicily, participated in the signing of the Act of Surrender of Japan in Tokyo Bay, ending World War II in the Far East, and in 1946 became an instructor at the officers' school in Corsham, Wiltshire. In the same year, he proposed to the young Elizabeth. Let's start at the beginning though. They met in 1939 when King George VI and Queen Elizabeth came for an official visit to the Dartmouth Naval Academy. Due to the mumps epidemic prevailing at the time, Philip was asked to look after the monarch's daughters. The 18-year-old, tall and handsome officer made a great impression on the then 13-year-old Princess Elizabeth, who immediately fell in love with him. They began to keep in touch by letters. This relationship was not to the liking of the future queen's parents, especially her mother. You can check out the details of their meeting and marriage of over 74 years in our other episode, so here we will just summarise the topic. A poor officer whose family was connected with the Nazi regime and who was suspected of numerous affairs did not seem an ideal candidate for the princess's husband. The king did not like his upbringing and the queen did not like his deplorable closet and the really lavish lifestyle of a playboy. Elizabeth, however, did not give up. Madly in love, forced her father in 1946 to invite Philip to Balmoral Castle, where the young couple secretly got engaged. The king reluctantly, but finally allowed the marriage, forcing the boy to give up his efforts until the age of 21. Philip could not afford an engagement ring, so his father took 3 diamonds from the family tiara to create jewellery for Elizabeth. He reportedly had £6 and 10 pence in his bank account just before the wedding, borrowing from friends and spending in nightclubs. The engagement of the princess to Philip was officially announced in July 1947, and the wedding took place on November 20th. Before the ceremony, Elizabeth Chosen One had to obtain British citizenship, give up his family name, Schleswig-Holstein-Sonderburg-Glucksburg, and take the name of his mother Mountbatten, renounce all Greek and Danish titles, as well as convert from Orthodoxy to Anglicanism. After saying the sacramental yes, Philip was given the title of His Royal Highness by King George VI and was appointed Duke of Edinburgh, Earl of Mariemouth and Baron Greenwich. Interestingly, Philip's mother was invited to the ceremony. Philip and his wife lived in a Clarence House mansion in London. Life at court, rules and the duties did not suit his temperament. He would sneak out to nightclubs and run away from orders. When the couple's first son, Prince Charles, was born, Philip just happened to be playing squash. Then he went swimming, and when visiting Elizabeth, at the sight of the firstborn, he supposedly said, "He looks like plum pudding." In fact, they did not establish a special bond until the end. Prince Philip said that he and his son have 2 different characters. Their mutual problems intensified after Charles married Diana, whom Philip was very fond of and cheered for. It is said that Philip, disliking orders and unable to obey the rules of court, quickly established a bond of understanding with Diana, who also felt lonely and misunderstood at court. Unlike his wife, the prince liked his daughter-in-law and sincerely supported her marriage to Charles. For many years, they exchanged warm letters in which he wrote that he was trying his best to help her save the relationship, as well as criticized his son's actions of Camilla Parker Bowles. Many years later, the contents of the correspondence surfaced in the media, in which one could read, "Charles was silly to risk everything with Camilla for a man in his position. We never dreamt he might feel like leaving you for her. I cannot imagine in their right mind leaving you for Camilla. Such a prospect never even entered our heads." But we must also mention what happened when Elizabeth became queen. The spouses became increasingly estranged, and after taking the throne in 1952, the monarch devoted herself entirely to her duties to the country. Not only did she have no time for her husband, even with children she only saw 1 hour a day, but meetings with them also written in a full calendar. And so despite the fact that they had 4 children after Charles was Anna, Andrew and Edward, Prince Philip was having affairs with other women. He also soon moved out of his wife's bedroom. Officially they loved and supported each other, so it was explained by the fact that the Queen has to take care of her health and her husband likes to sleep with an open window, even in winter. Philip wanted to pursue a career in the Navy, but as the partner of the monarch he could not do so. Admittedly, he was given the title of Lord Grand Admiral of the Navy by his wife as a gift for his 90th birthday. Also, after Elizabeth's coronation, he was given the title of Prince Spouse. He could not become a king because the king is more important than the queen, so the title was introduced to protect the monarch and to offset the equivalent position of the 2 spouses. The title of Prince Spouse only emphasized the representative function of the ruler's husband, but even so, the burning issues became the question of surname inheritance by the couple's children. Prince Philip insisted that they should bear his, to which Elizabeth was ready to agree, but the Queen Dowager learned of the matter and notified Churchill, who quickly intervened. Eventually, it was agreed that the name would be inherited by those descendants who were not in the direct line of succession to the throne. This decision killed Prince Philip, who confided in friends, "I am nothing amoeba. I am the only man in the country not allowed to give his name to his own children." The monarch turned a blind eye to her husband's antics with other women, and he carried out his duties, though he was also felt caged. During his lifetime, however, he undertook 637 solo trips to nearly 150 countries, gave 5,496 speeches, wrote 14 books, and was a patron of 785 organizations. He was an active member of the Royal Navy until 1953, and upon the death of King George VI, he assumed the title of Captain General. Along with Queen Elizabeth II, he served in representative roles. Finally, after years of living in his wife's shadow, he retired in May 2017. Due to his deteriorating health, he resigned from royal functions and disappeared from public life. He also moved out of the palace and took up residence at Wood Farm in the Sandringham estate, and mostly had only daily phone contact with his wife. They were reunited by the coronavirus pandemic. The couple, due to the lockdown, moved to Windsor Castle, where they again had to learn to live under one roof. Although it was reported that they still preferred to walk alone and lead separate lifestyles, nevertheless, they spend the most time together in years. The Queen mentioned in her statement, "While Philip and I have arrived in Windsor, we know that many individuals and families across the UK and the world are entering a period of great concern and uncertainty. We have all been challenged to change our existing habits and regular life patterns for the greater good of the communities in which we live, and in particular to protect the most vulnerable." Meanwhile, on February 16, 2021, Prince Philip was admitted to hospital for health scare and, as assured, unrelated to coronavirus. The situation seemed serious, but in mid-March, after undergoing surgery, the prince returned home. Sadly, today, April 9, 2021, a statement was issued saying, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen announces the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Further announcements will be made in due course." The royal family joins people around the world in mourning his loss. On June 10, Prince Philip would have turned 100 years old. If you too curious want to express your opinion of grief, write in the comments below, and we will see you tomorrow.